Good morning. This is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church in Detroit, and we're continuing our series of daily morning meditations where we generally look at one or another of the lessons that are assigned for morning or evening prayer, what is known as the Daily Office Lectionary. And hooray, it's Sunday. It's time for us to gather together here at church to glorify God, to be encouraged by the fellowship of the church, to hear the Word of God read and interpreted, and most importantly, to receive Jesus Christ in Blessed Sacrament. Now, today is what is known as Rose Sunday or Laetare Sunday, which is the opening word of the introit, but in Latin, we'll do it in English, of course. We are rejoicing, right? It's a little day in Lent that we lighten up a bit. We'll have the rose-colored vestments as well on the altar, so that's all important and well and good. But it is still Lent nonetheless. The lesson that's assigned for the communion service has to do with the feeding of the multitudes with loaves and fishes. But it's interesting that the reading for this morning for morning prayer is also in a related subject that has to do with feeding, not just the temporal needs feeding, but something more important. So the lesson assigned is John 6:27 through 40. Labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for the meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you, for him hath God the Father sealed. Then said they unto him, What shall we do, that we may work the works of God? Jesus answered and said unto them, This is the work of God, that ye believe on him whom he hath sent. They said therefore unto him, What sign showest thou then, that we may see and believe thee? What dost thou work? Our fathers did eat manna in the wilderness. It is written, He gave them bread from heaven to eat. Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father giveth you the true bread from heaven. For the bread of God is he which cometh down from heaven, and giveth life unto the world. Then said they unto him, Lord, give us this bread evermore. And Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. But I said unto you that ye shall have seen me, and believe not. All that the Father giveth me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will in no wise cast out. For I came down from heaven not to do my own will, but the will of him that sent me. And this is the Father's will which hath sent me, that of all which he hath given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life. And I will raise him up at the last day. Okay, so chapter 6 is the great Eucharistic theology chapter of St. John's Gospel. St. John is the most developed of the Eucharistic theologies because he's had time to meditate on the impact of Jesus's words as they have affected the community and the early church as it is evangelizing, growing like mad, and is, of course, learning how to put into effect the teachings of Jesus Christ himself. And so here he goes from talking about the bread, right? Remember that God fed the people of Israel as they were traveling through the wilderness, through the desert, for 40 years to get to the Holy Land. God fed them with manna or bread from heaven. Every day they received a portion, their own portion of bread. They were only allowed to take one day's portion, except for on Fridays they could take two because of the Sabbath day. But they had to trust. They were only allowed to take one day's worth. If they took two, it would fester and stink because they had to trust that God would provide for them their daily bread, right? Give us this day our daily bread. But then he morphs into this. He says that he is, in fact, the bread that comes down from heaven, that he himself, he's the Word of God, he's the light of light, and he's the bread of heaven. And he has been come to feed us both in word, right? He is the Word of God. And so we are fed and nourished by that. But more importantly, it literally becomes bread in giving us his body and blood in the Blessed Sacrament, right? He'll go on later in the chapter to say that unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you. So it's important for us to embrace this, and it will help us to build on what we're doing at the communion service today. So speaking of today, right, we know the schedule: 7:30 morning prayer, 8 o'clock Holy Communion, 10 o'clock Holy Communion. After the 10 o'clock service, a nice St. Patrick's Day corned beef lunch, and please plan on joining us for that as well. During the 10 o'clock, stay for lunch. And it's potluck if you can bring something to pass. And then 5:30 evening prayer with the opportunity to receive communion. And God willing, we'll see you in church.